So, Ronald Lloyd Spencer claims to be Buddha Maitreya the Christ. That's his title. From trucker and junkie to practically a living god. that's how far his ideas have gone. This faux Buddhism with lots of new age products. It's very capitalist. He makes a decent living. And he's the Buddha. Right. Okay, let's just say he is. And he has a following of thousands of people. Okay, thousands of people. Interesting. What about other Buddha claimants? There are several in India. There are several in parts of Southeast Asia. There are several all over the place. There are people like, well, Master Li of Falun Gong. He claims to be a Buddha. And claims to be the same Buddha, I believe. And he has a following of 100 million people in his movement, mostly in China. If you want to play the numbers game, come on. He must be the real one? Or is your one the real one? Buddha Maitreya the Christ. Maybe they're different Buddhas. Then why don't they know each other, acknowledge each other? Why don't they communicate? Why, if someone was to send a message from one to the other, they would probably just not listen? Unless it was like a very nice letter from Master Li saying to Ronald Lloyd Spencer, hey, you can become co-leader, which would never happen. In fact, Ron Spencer tried contacting, according to him anyway, according to some sources, tried getting into contact with the Dalai Lama to get recognition. Because if he's the Buddha, yeah, place a throne next to your little seat, Mr. Dalai Lama, because the Buddha has come. The Buddha Maitreya is basically a myth relating to this Buddha, this enlightened one, which watches over the heavens, or parts of the heavens. I think I can't remember this particular designation in some of the mythology. But there are many claimants. Many claimants. How would you prove a person is in fact this particular entity, this particular Maitreya? Well, they'd have to fit within the strict mythology according to the Buddhist sect in question. And if several sects believe in the Buddha Maitreya concept and they all have differing views of it, then why would they accept Ron Spencer as opposed to any number of other claimants? For that matter, I met her in fact, a woman who called herself Maitreya Miranda at one point, the female Christ. So she was Buddha Maitreya Miranda, which is her given name, the Christ, as in the feminine Christ. She believed that she was the manifestation of the Christ energy, and Maitreya is simply another way of saying the Christ or Saviour, so a Saviour to come, a bit like a Saviour in Judaism, some form of great prophet which is meant to come, according to some believers, like Messianic Jews believe in this very deeply. Within Christianity, you've obviously got Jesus Christ, and you've got other concepts all over the world. So they mix and match these ideas and confuse some of them in New Age, and Ron's done that to a degree. Ronald Lloyd Spencer has done that to some degree. And yeah, who is the real one? Well, the Dalai Lama hasn't accepted Ron Spencer. And he is probably one of the great. He is one of the greatest authorities in terms of the Buddhist sects, one of the major sects of Buddhism. So if he doesn't accept it, what about the others? Do you believe in that, or you don't believe in that myth? Okay, you do, but you don't believe in Ron. So it's like, well, how can you prove it? But I meant to believe it because the tools work. So apparently the artificial crystals with copper wire wrapped around it, they work. Right. That proves he's a Buddha. How? Because anyone could claim it, couldn't they? If they get a big enough following nowadays, it's considered to be true. Even if it's not the biggest following. Like I said, there's Falun Gong. And there's other sects, for that matter, which have a huge following out of, what you're talking about in terms of global Buddhism, there's like, about 500 million people. And you have a following of thousands. Not tens of thousands, necessarily. Certainly not hundreds of thousands. And you've got organisations alone, sects alone, which contain millions of people. And a movement in terms of Falun Gong, which isn't strictly Buddhist in every single way, but effectively follows a Buddha, a person who claims to be a Buddha. And, their movement is more about practices. It's about moving energy and things. So, yeah. Shouldn't you be worshipping Master Li? I'm not saying you should, because he's not a reputable character either. But in any case, he's got a big following. And if you're going to do the numbers game, do that. Rather than simply saying, no, he must be real and he has thousands of followers. What argument are you winning there? You're not winning an argument at all. You're making a statement that he's got a lot of followers, a lot of people who believe. A lot of people who believe in the tools and the mysticism and the practice. And it's like, well, I can point to another guy who's way more successful. You know, if L. Ron Hubbard had a following that was far bigger, and a cult that was far more successful, a lot more money, and some of the practices actually do work. You know, people do get off drugs by going into Scientology. Does that mean you should be worshipping L. Ron Hubbard as a Buddha? Well, he never claimed to be. Yes, he did. He claimed to be a reincarnated being who at one point was his great spiritual master, a Buddha. So, ridiculous cult claims. And your claims aren't any better than theirs.